Hello guys, my name is Loit. This is my colleague Christian.
Hi.
So we're going to do a quick wrap up of the Tammelehe development that has failed and go over the proposal for giving the consent to the transfer of the claims to Tammelehe Vara, and then we do a quick overview of the questions. We have about 10 questions that we got over the web, so we'll cover them in a second stage of the webcast. So Christian, floor is yours. Let's take what's the current status of the project?
Yeah, well, the current status is as follows. The trustee, first of all, the trustee of the bankruptcy has accepted all the claims by crowd estate collateral agent, which means that the 100% of our claims is accepted as valid claims in the process, and we are the major or largest creditor in that bankruptcy. Our claims are secured by the mortgage of the Tammelehe 6 and Tammelehe 4 properties, and basically if those properties would be sold, all the money from that proceedings will go towards our investors, and most likely other creditors would have to
write off the claims.
100%. So this is one side. One public auction for the sales for those properties has already taken place a couple of months ago. Unfortunately, that auction failed. It didn't manage to get any participants. This auction was held on a price level of claims, principal claims of crowd estate investors. That means 1.44 million euros plus VAT, which meant about 1.7 million euros. So that target didn't attract anyone in that process. So recently, I think it was a bit yesterday or late last week, I think the trustee opened the next round for the next auction. So this time the properties or the assets are valued at the 1.16 million euros, which is 1 million euros plus VAT. The reason we are addressing you with this matter is that if properties would be sold at that price level, about 65% of principal claims would be satisfied, of our investors would be satisfied. So that 65% of initial loan would be able to be repaid.
In the case if they are sold at 1 million euros plus VAT.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we are not able to foresee if there will be any interest with that price level, or maybe the auction will actually work, and the price would increase. This is unknown. We have, before the bankruptcy started, we have tried quite actively to find buyers for those properties, and we saw that interest was on price level somewhere in between 700,000 and 800,000 euros for both of those properties. So if we take regard also into the fact that general property prices have been rising in quite rapid pace, including land, including apartments, then this 1 million euros plus VAT could be actual market price. So I wouldn't exclude the possibility that properties would be sold off on that level.
Somebody interested in acquiring that at that price level.
Right. And we have also, well, as I mentioned, as an alternative, as I mentioned, the real estate prices have been going up, which has created an opportunity for us regarding that particular investment. We could finish quite successfully this development. In that case, we could be able to repay more than 65% probably, and that is based on the fact that potential prices that would be collected if apartments would be finished are considerably higher than Tammearenduse initial business plan indicated. So that creates an opportunity for us in that case.
And the region itself is quite demanded, so it's kind of this. They're designed by a well-known architect. They're architecturally nice, so we're still getting kind of interested requests from the potential buyers, kind of saying like they're asking like if somebody is going to complete, and if yes, then there's definitely going to be some interest towards the ultimate buyers for the units of those row houses.
And meanwhile, last week we were able to acquire the access road property, which is quite vital for development of Tammelehe 4 and Tammelehe 6. This property is not asset in the bankruptcy proceedings because it hasn't been at any point of time. It hasn't been asset of Tammearenduse, but was an asset of its parent company, and this property was sold out of a parent company quite shortly before the bankruptcy proceedings started. So now we control this vital road access as well. So this also is a quite important component in the thinking that we are able to do it and execute on this project. So those two things have because of those two things we have came to the conclusion that we may be able to develop this to the end, and that's why we have addressed you with a proposition you got last week. So we think that we are able to hire or engage a professional team who would be working as a general contractor, and we have also got in contact with a real estate broker who were engaged with the sales of Tammelehe Arenduse projects, Tammelehe 2 and 4 already before, and they have been quite bullish on the local market and indicated that as Lloyd also mentioned, there's a quite high demand for such a product currently. So we are still in the progress of getting together all the costs and related items, but as it is an uncompleted project and there's quite a lot of question marks, mostly related to the construction costs and also costs regarding the unfinished Tammelehe road. But still, we are it is quite possible that the project will produce enough free cash flow to be able to repay about 1.4 million, which is corresponds roughly to the principal loan amount crowd estate investors has put in or invested in Tammelehe. So if I we are going to publish cash flow estimates and business plan also after we have finished the budget. So we are able to show that in full confidence. But in general, the costs, turnkey cost of that project is most likely in the realm of 2.1 million euros. And if we would be able to sell those apartments, well, there's 12 apartments, and if we can sell those in average price of 2.3 thousand euros per square meter, we will be able to collect roughly 3.5 million euros of revenues, which will leave us in 1.4 million with 1.4 million profit. Well, the outstanding principal debt is 1.44, if I'm not mistaken. So that is considerably higher than this prospect of getting 1 million,
maybe less.
Maybe less. So that is in a nutshell the current status of the project. If the budget will be more detailed and we are concluded the bid for the project management company, then we'll be able to provide you a more detailed business plan and budgeting, and this probably will be done in 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, not later.
Mm-hmm. The end date for the current auction, if I remember correctly, is mid-June. So there's, I think it's about 4 weeks to go there. So we will use that to kind of fine-tune the business plan and the estimates as well. So, but in a way, like while we are working on it, it's kind of confirms our belief that by completing the project, the investors have a better chance to regain their investments than just auctioning it off. So it's always a balance of like getting something today or getting much more tomorrow. So, but at the end of the day, it depends on the voting that is currently going on. So we have about 50% of the participating investors have already voted for continuing and executing the project, and there is still a few weeks to go to complete the voting process. So essentially, it has to be finished before the auction ends. So to allow us to participate in that auction. But now let's take the questions. We have about 15 questions coming in, so maybe let's take them kind of one by one. So Andrea has asked about the idea of getting 5 biggest investors to be on a kind of supervisory board or a kind of monitoring board of the company to secure the investors' interest. So we gave it a thought, and in a way it's interesting idea, but it's legally kind of quite complicated. So if we look from our current perspectives, we basically intend to outsource all development activities to a professional project management company or team, and after the provider has been hired, so Crowd Estate itself intends to take the supervisory role in that process, and as a collateral agent, we have kind of legal grounds for that as well. The project itself doesn't it's not different from any other real estate development project that the investors have been financed over the last 6 years. So we really don't see a role of selected investors in the supervisory role. So there's a lot of kind of legal issues. There's issues of some conflicts of interest. There's the issue of having a mandate to represent other investors. So we would really kind of not very fond of the idea. At the same time, we're very happy if the investors team up and say that they want to kind of take over the project and to execute the management themselves, so we would be happy to kind of be relieved from our project management kind of obligations or role in that, and hand over to the representatives of the investors. So then it's like very clear, black and white. This is our current position on that. Would you like to, Kristen, take another one?
Yeah, Allan Reinsalu has asked, how does Tammelehe Vara show that it operates only in the best interest of crowd estate investors and not for crowd estate? As Lloyd mentioned, from our perspective, this project doesn't differ from any other development projects we have, which includes crowd estate investors. Crowd estate and its investors are quite well aligned in the end product of this development. We are both very interested that the project will be executed and ended successfully. So it's completely understandable why investors are interested in that. Crowd estate, of course, is not able to provide its services for long if the projects keep failing, and crowd estate will run away from its obligations towards the investors. So we of course we would do whatever we can to be successful, and it includes also these projects.
No, in a way, it's measured, like how much money can we recover in the process. So it's like if we fail to do it properly, like I don't believe that we will stay in business for a long time. So it's I think ours and investors' interests are very much aligned there. Then Allan has asked also a question about opportunities to invest into share capital of Tammelehe Vara in order to finish development. By kind of transferring the claims to Tammelehe Vara and acquiring the properties, the investors actually become virtual shareholders of the company, and the payout is really dependent on the actual net profit of the operations. And if we look at the effective loan contracts, there's a role of collateral agent who has an obligation towards the investors to distribute all the funds received via the liquidation of development process back to the investors. And that concerns Tammelehe Vara as well. And if we look at the project or the economics and the business plan that we are currently working on, so the project in itself doesn't really need additional equity. So it's more like a question like if the project is eligible for a kind of traditional bank financing as construction finance facility. So we have received few indicative offers on that. Nothing is closed yet. So and in a way, like we also consider the way we could raise the construction finance facility from our investors as well, but it really depends, like on the availability of the bank loan. So our kind of the interest should be aligned with the current investors, which mean that the cost of construction finance facility should be as low as possible. So, like using quite expensive crowd funding options would probably be not in the interest of the current investors.
Okay, so Allan Reinsalu has posted another one. Will the development by Tammelehe Vara affect the possible court proceedings against Tammelehe Arenduse for willful mismanagement or criminal activities? You know, there is no connection of these two processes. We are working closely with the trustee, so the persons responsible for mismanagement will be prosecuted in the criminal court. But this is, the task is to trustee to bring this up to that level.
And that's the second question is also about bankruptcy process and like how the stolen money can be recovered, like criminal proceedings. And so as Christian said, like the key role, the bankruptcy trustee has a key role in presenting the claims. We are providing legal support to the trustee, and kind of our intention is that the trustee is filing criminal charges against the people who embezzled the funds from the company. The names of the people who stole the money, they're publicly known. So, but the kind of probably for the police, it's pretty hard to recover any funds due to the use of temporary companies to launder the money, and the temporary companies have been liquidated as far as we know. We have a few other criminal investigations that we have initiated previously. So the experience shows that it's a very slow process, and it might be end up in a way that the people are going to be convicted, but the funds will not be recovered as they have been either spent or laundered to a place that they are not obtainable anymore. So, but it's kind of a bit too early to comment on that. So, but the intention is to proceed and press criminal charges if possible.
How probable is that the auction is successful at 1.2 million euros? Will Crowd Estate be the only one interested in a development? What if price goes above 1.2 million euros? This is again by Mr. Allan Reinsalu. We are not in a position to have any idea about success of auction in that price level, which will be clear after the auction is completed. As I mentioned before, we did quite a bit of work to find buyers for the development, and the price indications from those developers did not reach 1 million euros. Were a bit less than that, but circumstances on market have been changed, and it's not completely out of the question that this price level is where the market is as well. But internally, we have set a price where we will let the properties go, but we are not able to disclose that price point at this moment, because it could impact the course of auctions
in a negative way.
Yeah. So if somebody actually going to if a lot of developers are going to participate there, and the properties are sold on a reasonable price level, we will be very happy.
Yeah, that would allow to return the funds to investors, like not in like 16 months as the current business plan foresees, but really like in a few months. Mm-hmm. Then there are some questions about the economics of the project. I think Christian kind of covered them as well. So the estimated revenue was 3.5 million euros.
3.5 million euros, which allows us to think that there's going to be about 1.4 million free cash flow available for disbursement after the development is completed and sold.
Mm-hmm. And kind of the difference between the cost side is about 2.1 million.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the general economics of the project. But as we are kind of finalizing the business plan, we will kind of publish it on the project pages as well, so you would be able to download it, look at the numbers, how we see the economics working. On the completion date, it's I think the development activities itself probably can be completed within probably like 12 months. Tammelehe 4 is quite complete, so I think there's probably like 4 months of construction activities needed, and then the property is already kind of in a condition that it can be sold to the ultimate buyers. Tammelehe 6 is in a worse condition. There's basically no construction activities on the site except of some groundworks for the foundation. So that will probably take a bit more time. So if you look at the business plan itself, we have a 16-month timeline from the start of the project, and the start is probably like somewhere mid-summer, because it's depending on the currently ongoing auction and the transfers of properties after that. So it's I would say 16 months is a number. I'll take next one.
Yeah, this is by Anonymous. On what basis could crowd estate claim and mortgages be assigned in relation to the sum of the claims that belong to lenders who are not in favor of a proposal? So I understand the question. The question is that what is a legal base for our proposal, and how we ground that. The collateral agent is managing this process on the basis of the current loan agreements. As the loans to Tammelehe are in default, the claims are automatically handed over to collateral agent, and the collateral agent is free to release or sell those claims at will, as it seems proper in interest of investors. Despite that, we are doing this. We are consulting with investors about our next steps, and we hope to provide more clarity and transparency in doing this. I hope that works.
Mm-hmm. Then Smiley has asked about question if there's going to be any additional, more detailed contract or agreement between investors and Tammelehe Vara, development company, with a new repayment schedule and everything like that. No, there will be no additional contracts between investors and crowd estate, not investors and Tammelehe Vara as well. Legally, the default of the loans has caused the claims of the investors arising from the loan contracts to be transferred to crowd estate collateral agent, and the investors are currently having a claim against collateral agent, and the collateral agent has an obligation to return all those reclaimed funds back to the investors when they are reclaimed. In the current case, collateral agent is the owner of claims against Tammelehe, and our intention as a collateral agent is to transfer those claims to Tammelehe Vara, which is a SPV with no business activities so far. So Tammelehe Vara can use the claims to become the owner of the properties of Tammelehe 4 and 6, so which is kind of the valuable part of the business. Collateral agent and Tammelehe Vara will conclude a claim transfer contract between them, which specifies the terms of the repayment of those claims as well. So the essence is that any free cash flow generated via the development process is going to be paid as a reimbursement for the claims and transferred later on to the original investors of Tammelehe according proportional to their original investments. So it's an obligation of a collateral agent, and as in previous cases, we have done it like several times, and like kind of as soon as we get the money back from the process, probably it takes like a day or two to pay it out to the investors. So and then there's a question about who has stolen the money. So Tammelehe Arendus, it was managed by Mr. Mihkel Roosma, he was a single person having signature rights and authorization in the bank to operate with Tammelehe Arendus accounts. And we have reviewed the account statement, and there are like basically 4 persons who received unauthorized payouts. So the company held by Mihkel Roosma himself, Mercury's Investments OÜ. Then there's a company named Stella Artois, who's owned and managed by Mr. Alo Lillepea. Then the company Wind Guru, owned and managed by Mr. Ivo Lillepea. And significant payouts also have been made to Mrs. Kristi Lillepea, who's the wife of Mr. Alo Lillepea. So there's seems to be a kind of a family business there two brothers and a wife, so who embezzled most of the funds. Also, Mihkel Roosna has also spent the money raised from investors to the subjects clearly not related to the development of Tammelehe projects. He has paid some notary fees for transactions done in Latvia, which we have no idea about. Then there have been some car lease payments for third persons to Coop Leasing and Luminor Leasing. Also have no idea who those cars belong. And there have been made some payments to the lenders of some estate guru loans regarding project Tammelehe, Silo, Sambliku, bridge loans 9017 and 8864. So these are the kind of the places where the money has gone. Also, a big loss actually, which is maybe not kind of a relative fault, is as the project itself included the making prepayments to prefab house construction company, PH Construction OÜ. So Tammelehe has made about prepayments of 330,000 euros to that producer, and for the elements of Tammelehe 6 building, and the producer has not delivered the elements which were paid for, so they never arrived to the site, and according to our knowledge, those elements have been sold to third parties and are currently irrecoverable. So this is kind of a bad business decision made by the Tammelehe. So I know this is a kind of the overview who stole the money.
That also includes the list of questions we received up to this morning. We can check if there's any more.
Let me see
questions.
if there was a question. Let me see. There was about secondary market. Let me. We covered the public access road. Robert has asked about that as well, so it's solved. So Tammelehe is the owner of the access road currently. So
no, Tammelehe.
Tammelehe Vara. Sorry about that. Yeah. Let me see. That was. Okay, Yuri has asked a question about selling back Tammelehe 6 and 4 loans at a discounted price. So our intention is, if we go forward and Tammelehe Vara becomes the owner of properties, and we continue with the development project, and we publish the business plan. So I think it would be reasonable to open up a secondary market so the investors actually can offload their loans or like sell them off at a discount if they decide to do so. So it becomes kind of a new project with a new financial and new return estimate. So yes, so that's the plan. And there's a question about if the organization of the sale of the collateral in a way that the potential investors would be too fuzzy or complicated, and therefore there will be no interest to buy those properties. The sales process is organized by the bankruptcy trustee. He consults the creditors, which we are one of them, but all the small creditors as well. So we really cannot influence directly how the collaterals are going to be sold. So he follows the bankruptcy law, or it has to be conducted via the auction, like a public electronic auction. There's a pre-announcement registration time. There's a demand for a down payment like a collateral for execution of the transaction, etc. So if it seems to be complex, maybe because it's the law says so. So there's not too much to kind of comment about that. So that's all from us. You're more than welcome to call us, write us if you have any questions about that. we would be really happy if you, like participants, and you who are going to look at the video recordings later on, you review the claim transfer proposal and the paper that we submitted for you to be approved or like signed in our system. That would really help us in deciding which way to go forward. Both ways are actually okay for us, so we really want to do what the investors how they vote for that, and anybody not voting is basically considered to be voting against. So if we don't reach the 2/3 threshold, we probably will not proceed with the development plan, and then the trustee will just sell it off at the price that he's able to do. So that's the essence of today's webinar. So thank you for listening. I'm looking forward to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.